After the intern was plied with alcohol and taken into a small room, my usually composed husband grew restless. "Grace, there's an urgent matter at the office. I'm afraid I can't stay with you today." It was our 6th wedding anniversary, and it was the first time he wanted to leave early. I ran my hand over the divorce papers on the table and said blandly, "Just a few minutes of your time. Take a look at the agreement, sign it, and then..." Before I could finish, Marcus abruptly snatched the papers, not even glancing at them, and flipped directly to the end to sign. He gave me a perfunctory smile and said, "We're husband and wife, you wouldn't trick me, would you? Just handle it as you see fit." The moment he finished speaking, he rushed out. I watched his hurried back, a wave of sadness washing over me. "Marcus, you just signed divorce papers. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from." After I first discovered Marcus's infidelity, he knelt before me, wildly slapping himself. "Grace, believe me, I was drugged. Sam was only here to bring me medicine, and then, please believe me. I truly love you, I can't live without you. If you don't believe me, I'll cut out my heart right now." With that, Marcus grabbed the kitchen knife from the table. Even though I was heartbroken, his frantic behavior startled me. He didn't stop until I snatched the knife away. Marcus kept my face and earnestly pleaded, "Grace, please forgive me, okay? Just use the reconciliation token." The reconciliation token was a gift I had given Marcus on our wedding day. He had always been insecure, constantly afraid I would break up with him or leave. To reassure him, and to solidify our bond, I had proposed the reconciliation token. There was only one, and no matter the reason, once used, the other person had to be forgiven. I closed my eyes, already dry from tears, and nodded in silent agreement. Only then did Marcus feel at ease enough to faint. After being discharged from the hospital, the first thing Marcus did was fire Luna, the intern. He even fired female employees whose positions were close to his, leaving only me as the sole woman around him. Then, he took me to do everything I had always wanted to do but never got around to. I climbed my first snow-capped mountain and went to Iceland to see the rare and beautiful northern with him. We were just like we were in the beginning, during the phase when we loved each other the most. I thought I could let go of my emotional baggage and start fresh with him. That was until, back home, the food delivery driver delivered a coconut latte. It was full milk, full sugar, with a note for "Darling. Did you order this?" I asked, confused, because I couldn't recall Marcus ever liking sweet things. Marcus stared at the note, then said with a sudden realization, "Yes, I ordered it." We had been traveling for nearly 2 months, and a lot of work at the office had been delayed. That night, Marcus was called to the office for overtime. Before he left, he rambled on about not being able to sleep with me, insisting I kiss him, saying it was charging. I had no choice but to comply, and Marcus finally left, fully satisfied. But in the middle of the night, I received an explicit video. I didn't even have the courage to open it, comforting myself that it might have been filmed previously. But the blue watch on his wrist dragged me to hell. We had bought it during our trip to Iceland. I gritted my teeth and clicked it open. 2 naked figures were entangled on the bed, ambiguous sounds filling the air. Luna asked coquettishly, "Is it soft? My body, or Grace's? Who do you want?" Veins throbbed on Marcus's forehead. He held Luna tighter and kissed her forcefully. "Shut up, don't ask." Luna pouted in dissatisfaction and turned her head away. Marcus finally couldn't hold back. He let out a muffled groan and hoarsely said, I want you." My phone vibrated again, and a WhatsApp message popped up. It was from Luna. "He still can't forget how good I feel. You know what? He was so rough tonight, I couldn't handle him. If you're smart, you should step aside." I let out a cold laugh, suddenly remembering that Luna used to drink a coconut latte every day. So, the coconut latte from earlier that day was their messenger and a part of their affair. Marcus did go to the office for 2 hours of overtime, then drove to an apartment. It was one he had bought for Luna. When he bought it, he said, "I can't give you status, but I can satisfy you materially without limit. I only have one request: never cause trouble for my wife." Marcus entered the apartment directly with his fingerprint. Luna immediately pounced on him from the sofa. "Marcus, I knew you'd come to see me." Before she could finish, Marcus grabbed her by the neck and slammed her against the back of the door. He narrowed his eyes and gritted his teeth, saying, "How many times have I told you? Don't go parading in front of Grace. You even ordered coffee to my home. How audacious." Luna's face turned beet red. But there was no fear in her eyes, only a hint of triumph. Marcus's body suddenly stiffened. Luna had already begun touching him. You've indulged me so many times, Marcus. If you were truly angry, you wouldn't have come." With that, she leaned in and kissed him. Marcus responded with equal dominance. Another message popped up on my phone. "Oh, right, I'm pregnant." He said he'd raise it. I didn't reply. I just silently collected all these messages. Then I packaged them up and set them for scheduled delivery. I believed Marcus would be quite surprised when he received them. After that, I went to the office to resign, sold all our property, and completed my immigration procedures. The next day, when Marcus returned, he was overly attentive, ordering roses and giving me a diamond necklace. I knew he felt guilty and wanted to make it up to me. But what's done is done. And a broken heart can't be put back together. When he saw my suitcase, he froze, immediately asking nervously, "Where are you going, Grace?" A smile, devoid of any warmth, touched my lips. "Business trip." "Oh, you scared me, Grace. You know I can't live without you. You can't just quietly leave me." With that, Marcus embraced me tightly. He nuzzled his chin into the crook of my neck, his usual way of expressing affection. But now, I felt an overwhelming sense of disgust. At this close proximity, I could even smell Luna's perfume on him. I suppressed the urge to vomit and subtly pushed him away. Marcus, however, pressed closer. He whispered in my ear, "Grace, let's have a child." My body stiffened. Marcus noticed and quickly added, "Let's adopt. We'll adopt a child, and they can keep you company, okay?" Children had always been a sensitive topic for us. When we had our premarital medical exam, I was diagnosed with congenital infertility. Not having children was our greatest regret in 6 years of marriage. Marcus was truly good at scheming. Before his illegitimate child was even born, he was already planning who would raise it. Thinking of tomorrow's plane ticket, it was best not to have any mistakes at this point. So I nodded and replied, "Okay." Marcus excitedly kissed my cheek. Actually, there was a secret I had never told Marcus. When Ed and I went for our premarital medical exam, it was Marcus who had congenital azoospermia. I had begged the doctor to swap our results. At that time, I loved him so much. I was afraid of hurting his pride, so I endured the blame myself. For 10 years, while we were together, I had been secretly taking birth control pills. Now, it all seemed like karma. On the day of my flight, Marcus personally came to Zurich to see me off. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he clutched my hand reluctantly, saying, "Grace, I don't know why, but I feel so uneasy. I have a feeling you're going to leave me. Can you not go on this business trip?" The panic in his eyes was real, but my determination to leave was just as real. I stroked the cheek of the man I had loved for 10 years and feigned a casual tone. "It's just a business trip. I'll be back in a few days." Marcus whined like a puppy, constantly reminding me about eating, dressing, and staying safe. Not until the plane took off did I feel an unprecedented sense of relief. Marcus didn't get home until past 1 in the morning. Luna stood by the door in a silk slip dress, her bare shoulders marked with a few ambiguous red marks. "Marcus, I knew you'd come back." She stood on tiptoe, intending to kiss him, but Marcus turned his body, dodging her. "Who told you to come?" His voice was as cold as ice. As he turned to let her in, his gaze unconsciously fell on her slightly bulging abdomen. This child was the gift he had intended for his wife. "I missed you." Luna casually nestled into the sofa, rubbing her bare feet on the rug. Marcus didn't respond. Luna's fingers suddenly wrapped around his wrist. The cold touch made him flinch. Her nails lightly scraped his skin, climbing up his forearm. "Are you thinking about her?" Marcus sharply pulled his hand away. "Behave." "I won't." Luna suddenly straddled his lap, the strap of her slip dress sliding off her shoulder. "You clearly prefer someone like me, don't you?" Marcus's breathing grew heavy. He hadn't touched her in a long time, but as his gaze swept over her abdomen, reason forcefully pulled him back. "Get off." His voice was a suppressed croak. "It's not good for the baby." "Marcus feels sorry for me?" Luna smiled more seductively, her hand slipping inside his shirt. "The doctor said it'll be stable after 3 months, and a gentle..." Her words were cut short as Marcus pressed her onto the sofa and kissed her. Reason retreated in the flood of desire. He was like an out-of-control beast until Luna cried out ouch, and he suddenly snapped back to his senses. He gasped, releasing her, cold sweat beading on his forehead. Luna curled up in his arms, her fingertips tracing his taut jawline. "See? You can't leave me at all." Marcus said nothing, getting up to take a cold shower in the bathroom. The man in the mirror had red-rimmed eyes, and his bloodshot gaze held a frustration he couldn't even comprehend himself. The next morning, Marcus was awakened by the glaring sunlight. He instinctively called out Grace, but heard a sound from the kitchen. Luna walked out wearing light pink silk pajamas, holding a glass of milk. Those pajamas made Marcus's pupils constrict. I had bought them 2 years ago for my birthday, but then thought the neckline was too wide and casually tossed them into the old items box in the walk-in closet. "You're awake?" I warmed some milk. Luna walked over with a beaming smile, completely unaware of his suddenly darkened expression. Marcus abruptly sat up in bed, a towering rage surging in his chest. I had worn those pajamas less than 3 times because they were too sexy. This was a private joke between us. How dare Luna touch them? Take them off. His voice was like a poisoned ice pick. Luna froze. Huh? I said take them off. Marcus grabbed the shirt from beside his pillow and threw it at her. Who told you to touch her things? Do you really think you're the lady of this house? The satin fabric of the pajamas fell to the floor with a soft rustle. Luna's face instantly turned ashen, her eyes reddening. It's just old clothes. Why are you being so mean? Because. Marcus stared at her, the disgust in his eyes practically overflowing. Everything in this house, including the air, is off limits to you. Luna bit her lip, reluctantly turning to go back to the bedroom to change. When she emerged in her own clothes, Marcus was already standing by the entryway, pointing to the door. Get out. I don't want to say it a second time. His voice was devoid of any warmth. The door slammed shut with a bang, and silence finally returned to the apartment. Mark. Stared at the pink pajamas on the floor. His heart suddenly felt gripped by an invisible hand. He bent down to pick them up. As his fingertips touched the cool satin, he belatedly realized something was wrong. My clothes in the walk-in closet were almost all gone. The skincare products on the vanity were just empty bottles and jars. Even the skim milk I usually drank from the refrigerator was gone. He rushed to the study. The shelf dedicated to my books was empty, including the first edition of the prints he had given me. The entire apartment suddenly felt foreign and empty, like a body from which the soul had been extracted. Marcus stumbled toward the living room, his gaze falling on the center of the dining table. There lay a stack of papers, the agreement I had asked him to sign yesterday. His fingers trembled so violently he could barely hold the sheets of paper. The heading on the topmost page. Divorce. The 5 bold characters burned into his eyes like a red-hot iron. Below the signature line was his sprawling name, and next to it, my delicate handwriting. Marcus's mind buzzed, as if something had completely exploded. He finally understood why I had been so calm yesterday, why I had said just sign it. It turned out that from the very beginning, I had no intention of leaving him any room. He grabbed his phone. The screen was clean, no missed calls, no WhatsApp messages. More than 10 hours had passed since I left. Grace. His voice was hoarse as sandpaper. When he dialed my number, only a cold recorded message came through the receiver. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. He couldn't believe what he heard. His hands trembling, he texted, "Honey, did you land? Did the hotel pick you up?" But in the next second, a glaring exclamation mark appeared. Marcus rushed out of the apartment like a madman. He went to my best friend's apartment, even rushing to the office where I had already resigned. Ms. Grace resigned last week, the young receptionist said timidly, her words like needles piercing his ears. Did she say anything to you before she left? He grabbed the girl's arm, his nails almost digging into her flesh. No, we don't know where she went either. Marcus released her hand and stumbled back a few steps. The sunlight was blinding, but he felt a chill throughout his body. This sentence echoed in his mind like a curse. He had always thought I couldn't leave him, just like after countless arguments in the past. As long as he humbled himself, I would always soften. But this time I had left so decisively, without even a backward glance. Marcus thought in despair, Grace must have discovered my second affair long ago. He had clearly been so careful. He hadn't let Luna appear in front of me again. And he had repeatedly warned Luna not to cause trouble for me. What the hell happened? Who told her? If he found out, he would make that person pay. He had never intended a long-term relationship with Luna, merely to use her womb to bear his child. Grace clearly loved children so much, yet she had left him, even abandoning the idea of a child. Why didn't she get hysterical like the first time, or even confront him about a divorce? Why did she disappear so suddenly, without even a chance for him to beg her to stay? Marcus collapsed onto the ground in despair. Just then, he suddenly received an email on his phone. The sender was Grace, filling him with pleasant surprise. But when he opened it, he was stunned. The email was full of intimate videos and photos of him and Luna, and even provocative texts Luna had sent to Grace. He still can't forget how good I feel. If you're smart, you should step aside, I'm pregnant with his child. Marcus was furious. Veins bulged on his forehead as he furiously threw his phone. Gritting his teeth, he said, fine, so it was you. Marcus stood up, intending to go find Luna and tear apart that insolent wretch with his own hands. His assistant suddenly appeared, saying urgently, Mr. Marcus, we found her. Ms. Grace bought a house in a small town in Switzerland. Marcus was overjoyed and immediately instructed his assistant to book the fastest flight. He had only one thought now. Grace, you think you can run away? No way. You are my wife, Marcus's wife. You will never leave me in this lifetime. When returned to pack his suitcase, his gaze swept over the bedside table. A photo frame rested there, containing a picture taken last year in Iceland. In the photo, I was smiling, my eyes curved. He held me from behind, his chin resting on the crown of my head. Marcus reached out and caressed my face in the picture, his eyes chillingly dark. No matter where you run, to the ends of the earth, I will drag you back. When arrived at Zurich, there were only 30 minutes left until boarding. His fingers clutched the printed town map, his thumb almost poking holes through the paper. He had never imagined that the place I most wanted to go would truly become my sanctuary, a refuge from him. The security line was long. Marcus frequently checked his blue watch. He still had photos of the divorce papers on his phone. He had looked at them no less than 20 times, each time feeling as if something was brutally gouging his heart. Only when he stepped onto the plane and the clouds outside the window gradually obscured the city's outline, did he belatedly remember that during check-in, he seemed to have glimpsed a familiar figure. At the time, his mind was entirely focused on Grace, and he dismissed it as a hallucination. When the plane landed at Zurich, it was early afternoon local time. Marcus practically ran out of the terminal. The car rental company's agent was already waiting at the entrance. When he found the cream-colored townhouse, the sunflowers in the yard were facing the sun, but there was no sign of the owner. A neighbor said they had seen her and a man heading toward the town center half an hour ago. Marcus's heart suddenly constricted, and he drove quickly toward the town center. Marcus's gaze scanned the crowd like radar, finally settling on the ice cream shop at the street corner. I was wearing a light blue dress, smiling at the man beside me. My hand was linked with his arm. The man wore a beige trench coat, with a gentle, refined demeanor. He was listening to me speak, a faint smile in his eyes. They walked side by side, their steps unhurried, like an ordinary couple. Marcus felt all the blood rush to his head, his sanity instantly collapsing. He forcefully pushed open the car door and strode a few steps to stand before them, his chest heaving violently. His gaze was fixed on the stranger, his voice hoarse with rage. Who is he? The smile vanished from my face. I looked up at him, my eyes calm as still water, showing no surprise, no ripple. I gently disengaged from the man's arm and stepped half a pace forward, shielding him behind me. Mister, I forced a smile, one that floated on my face but didn't reach my eyes, carrying an obvious distance. Who I'm with is none of your business, is it? None of my business? Marcus sounded as if he'd heard the biggest joke, his eyes bloodshot. Grace, say that again? I'm your husband. Oh? I raised an eyebrow, took out my phone, opened the photo of the divorce papers, and held it out to him. Mr. Marcus, are you losing your memory so young? Do you not recognize your signature on this? Marcus's gaze fell on the signature in the photo, and his face instantly turned ashen. He had forgotten. He had already signed. From the moment his pen touched the paper, only a legal termination remained between them, but he couldn't accept it. Especially after seeing me so intimate with another man, that possessiveness spread like wildfire in his heart. He suddenly raised his hand, about to punch the man who had remained silent. Why? Why could this man stand beside her? Why could she smile so happily after leaving him? Slap. A crisp slapping sound echoed north the quiet street, startling the customers at the nearby coffee shop who peeked out. Marcus's head snapped to the side from the impact, a red mark quickly appearing on his cheek. He looked at me in disbelief. My hand was still raised in the air, my eyes as cold as ice. Marcus, I said, enunciating each word. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable force. Mind your place. You are my ex-husband now. If word gets out that you assaulted someone, aren't you afraid of losing face, Mr. Marcus? That slap seemed to both awaken him and completely ignite his fury. Marcus clutched his burning cheek, the anger in his eyes almost turning tangible. He stared at me, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. Just then, a delicate voice suddenly interjected, Marcus, what's wrong? Marcus snapped his head around, only to see Luna standing not far away, carrying a delicate suitcase, her face bearing a perfectly timed look of concern. She wore a white dress, and her abdomen showed a noticeable curve. Standing on a foreign street, she looked particularly striking. How could she be here? Marcus's mind was a mess. He hadn't told anyone his itinerary. Luna, however, seemed to ignore his surprise. She quickly walked to his side, naturally reaching for his arm, her gaze seemingly unintentionally sweeping over Grace. A flicker of triumph quickly crossed her eyes, immediately replaced by worry. I saw you booked a plane ticket in a rush, and I was worried something happened to you, so I followed. Is this Ms. Grace? She deliberately emphasized Ms. Grace, as if to remind him of something. I looked at the suddenly appearing Luna, then at Marcus's grim face, and a mocking smile played on my lips. I relinked my arm with the man beside me and said calmly, "It seems you two have something to discuss. We won't disturb you." With that, I turned to leave. "Grace, stop." Marcus finally found his voice. He took a step forward, intending to grab my wrist, but Luna gently held high. "I'm back." "Marcus, don't get agitated, it's not good for the baby." Luna looked up at him, her voice soft and sweet, but her hand clutched his sleeve tightly. "Let's talk this out calmly." Her words were like a needle, waking Marcus up. He looked at Luna's slightly bulging abdomen, then at my resolute retreating back. His chest churned with anger, resentment, and a trace of inexplicable panic. And in Luna's lowered eyes, a storm was quietly brewing. She had long anticipated that Marcus would lose control when he found me, and she had already planned how to help him out. Marcus, like a persistent nuisance, clung to the small town where I lived, refusing to leave. He rented the townhouse next to mine, appearing punctually at my door every morning. Sometimes he'd bring my favorite breakfast, other times he'd just stand there silently, like a haunting statue. When I went out, he'd follow, neither too close nor too far. If I talked to neighbors, he'd stare intently at them. His obsessive behavior made the townspeople keep their distance. "Grace, let's talk." That evening, he stopped me as I was about to go home, his eyes bloodshot, stubble darkening his jaw. 10 years of feelings, you're just going to cut them off? Just because of Luna? I've completely broken up with her. Please come back. I turned sideways to walk around him, but he suddenly grabbed my wrist, his grip so strong it felt like he might crush my bones. "I know you're still angry with me, but I'm truly remorseful." His voice was pleading. "I never blamed you for being infertile. We can adopt, just like I said before. Let's start over, okay? Infertile?" I sounded as if I had heard the biggest joke. I violently flung his hand away and pulled a yellowed folder from my bag, smashing it hard against his face. "Marcus, see for yourself." The folder burst open, and several crumpled medical reports spilled onto the ground. The topmost one was a premarital medical exam from 10 years ago. The applicant's name was Marcus, and the diagnosis line clearly read, congenital azoospermia, 0 chance of fertility. Marcus's pupils suddenly constricted. He trembling picked up the report, his fingers tracing the diagnosis. He then flipped to another. It was my medical report, all indicators normal, reproductive function intact. This isn't possible," he murmured, his face ashen. "The doctor clearly said back then. Said I couldn't have children, right?" I looked at his panicked face, feeling as if my heart was plunged into ice water, cold and aching. I begged the doctor to switch the results. "You always said you were insecure, and I was afraid you'd collapse if you knew the truth, afraid you'd feel incomplete, so I took all the blame for you. For 10 years, I've been secretly taking birth control pills while listening to you lament. It's a shame we don't have children. Do you find that amusing?" Marcus stood frozen, as if all his strength had been drained. The reports fluttered to the ground from his hand. He looked at me, his eyes filled with shock, bewilderment, and a trace of barely perceptible shame. So for all these years, the self-esteem he had so carefully protected was nothing but a lie I had painstakingly woven. His seemingly understanding compassion was all cruel mockery directed at me. "No, it's not like that." He shook his head, his lips trembling, but he couldn't form a complete sentence. I turned to go home. Before closing the door, I looked at his disheartened back and softly said, "Marcus, you never loved me. You only loved yourself." The next morning, I heard that Marcus had taken Luna to a hospital in Zurich. By evening, they returned. Marcus's face was ashen, his steps unsteady, as if all life had been drained from him. Luna followed behind him, her face pale, her hands tightly protecting her abdomen, her eyes filled with terror and panic. As soon as they reached the apartment building, a fierce argument erupted. "Tell me, what the hell is going on?" Mark's voice was hoarse, his hands clutching several new medical reports, almost crumpling the paper. The doctor said I have congenital azoospermia. I can't possibly have children. Whose illegitimate child is this? I don't know. Marcus, believe me, you're the only man I've been with. Luna cried, shaking her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. It must be a mistake by the doctor. Let's go get checked again, okay? Mistake? Marcus furiously threw the reports at her face, his eyes as sharp as knives. Do you take me for a fool? This child is already 3 months old. Calculate the time, it's precisely from when you said I forced you. You schemed to get close to me, deliberately let Grace see us together, even tricked me with a fake pregnancy, all to force her out and take her place? Luna trembled as he yelled at her, but she still stubbornly insisted, no. I truly love you. The child must be yours. Enough. Marcus roared, raising his hand to strike her, but stopped when he saw her abdomen, his eyes surging with rage and disgust. Get out. I don't want to see you again. Luna stumbled back a few steps, watching Marcus's resolute retreating back. The tears on her face gradually stopped, replaced by a nearly insane malevolence. She lowered her head to look at her abdomen, then looked up at my brightly lit window, a sinister smile on her lips. Luna quietly retreated into a corner, took out her phone, and dialed an unfamiliar number, her voice cold and resolute. Do me a favor. I want them to go to hell together. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when the wind chimes outside the window suddenly rang a few times. Amidst the delicate sounds, there was an inexplicable sense of eeriness. My phone vibrated in the living room. It was Marcus's number. I didn't want to answer, but the ringing persisted, like his relentless hounding these past few days. The moment I pressed the answer button, his urgent voice burst through. Grace. Why did you call Luan? To the apartment? She texted me saying you had something to tell her and to come over immediately. I didn't. I frowned, my heart sinking abruptly. I've been home all day. I haven't seen her. Before I finished speaking, the doorbell rang frantically and insistently. Marcus practically broke through the door. His face was flushed from rushing, but his eyes were filled with. Seeing me standing alone in the living room, he froze. She isn't here? I told you, I haven't seen her. I glanced at the tightly closed doors and windows. A chill crept up my spine. Marcus, we've fallen into a trap. His face instantly turned ashen. Just then, a sharp crash sounded from outside the window, like a glass bottle being smashed on the ground. Immediately after, an orange glow abruptly shot up, illuminating the entire window. Thick smoke seeped through the cracks, carrying a pungent smell of gasoline. Fire! Marcus's voice cracked. He rushed to the window, but the surging heat forced him back. The fire spread rapidly. The wooden window frame was already blackening, and the crackling of flames was mixed with a chilling popping sound. Don't waste your energy. A faint voice came from the shadows of the entryway. Luna slowly emerged. She was wearing dark clothing, her face devoid of expression, only her eyes remarkably bright. She instinctively caressed her abdomen, as if confirming something, and a ghastly smile twisted her lips. Marcus, Grace, we can finally go on this journey together. You set the fire? Marcus's voice was filled with incredulous rage. Are you insane? Insane? Luna laughed, her laughter piercing in the firelight. Yes, I'm insane. From the moment I tricked you with a fake pregnancy, from the moment you played me like a pawn, from the moment the doctor told me it was all a lie, I went insane. Her gaze swept over me, then returned to Marcus. I gambled everything, thinking I could snatch everything you had, but in the end, I'm nothing. Since I can't have it, then you won't get to have it easy either. Flames were already licking at the doorframe. The scorching air made it difficult to breathe. Marcus violently grabbed my wrist, his palm scorching hot. Grace, run. The back door was warped by the heat. He slammed his shoulder against it a few times before the door panel groaned and a crack appeared. The thick smoke choked me, making it impossible to open my eyes. I only felt him dragging me tightly, stumbling out the door. Trying to run? Luna suddenly lunged, clinging to Marcus's legs. No one is getting out. We'll die together. Get off me. Marcus roared, trying to shake her off, but she held on as tightly as a vice. The flames had already reached the hem of her clothes, but she seemed to feel no pain, only staring at us, her eyes burning with the madness of dragging us all down with her. Grace! Run! Marcus suddenly looked back at me, his gaze so complex it startled me. There was guilt, reluctance, and a hint of resolve. He forcefully pushed me outwards. Don't look back. I stumbled out the back door and fell onto the grass. Behind me, I heard Luna scream and Marcus's furious shouts, followed by a deafening explosion. The heat wave hit my back like an invisible hand. I lay on the ground, watching the cream-colored house collapse in the flames, the vines burned into charred strips, and the sunflowers by the door shriveling in the intense heat. The fire truck sirens came from a distance, growing louder, but they would never catch up to the all-consuming fire. By the time the firefighters put up the caution tape, it was already pitch dark. I sat on the bench beside the ambulance, wrapped in a thin blanket, watching the firefighters carry two barely recognizable bodies out of the ruins. There were no tears, no sadness. My heart felt hollowed out, with only the echo of wind passing through the emptiness. In the end, Marcus still chose to give me the chance to live. Perhaps it was out of guilt, perhaps a lingering shred of love, or perhaps it was simply the final manifestation of his obsessive possessiveness. He could ruin me, but he couldn't stand for anyone else to. But none of that mattered anymore. The next day, local news reported the fire, with the headline, "Townhouse Fire, 2." The report stated the cause of the fire was preliminarily determined to be a short circuit from old wiring. No one mentioned the frantic confrontation, nor the entangled love and hatred behind those two bodies. I packed my simple belongings and boarded a plane back home. Outside the window, the snow-capped mountains of Switzerland gradually became distant white specks, like a dream that had never existed. As the plane took off, I closed my eyes. All those memories of Marcus, the love and hate, the betrayal and entanglement, all remained with the burned-down house, forever in that small town in Switzerland. My phone still held a picture of the divorce papers, but now, even their last bit of legal validity had lost all meaning. I was finally free. There was no euphoria, no elation of release, just an immense emptiness in my heart, so vast it felt as if it could hold all the wind of the journey. What the future held, I didn't know, but at least from this moment on, I could simply be Grace and live for myself. The plane cut through the clouds, flying eastward. Sunlight streamed through the window, falling on the back of my hand, warm and bright. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.